So today, it's very much like yesterday where we're going to be talking about loans and investments and stuff. And we're going to use that same program. It's an app on your calculator. And I got everybody in class in it right now. If you don't have a calculator at home, you can go to my welcome folder. Then there's a yellow folder in there that says need a calculator. Click here. And then you basically hit enter a few times and a little tiny calculator icon appears at the top. Once you're in the calculator, you go to apps and you'll find the one called TVM Solver. It's the first one on every menu under apps. Okay, so there's that reminder. So this is how they look. That looks really scary, but I'm going to give you one and you'll see it's not that bad. Let's say that you had $500 and they usually start with U sub 0, and it really doesn't matter whether you use U sub 0 or U sub 1. It just means you got to know that you picked one or the other. Okay, that's $500 that, let's say you've got a bunch of Christmas gifts over time and you never spent them and you just got this $500. UN equals UN minus 1. That always comes next every single time. Then you put an amount that you multiply that. 1 plus the annual rate. I think we're going to get 7% interest. Divided by 12 means monthly. And if you put plus 25, Parker, what did that plus 25 mean? Don't remember? Oh, you weren't here yesterday. Okay. Just pay really good attention right now then and you'll learn this. Tyler, do you remember in this scenario, we have $500 to start with. We're getting 7% interest monthly. What's the $25?
The amount that you're putting in for saving.
Yep. You're going to put in, we call that the deposit, monthly deposit of $25. Okay? And you're going to slowly build up your cash pile. So you start with 500, and why is it plus? Because we're adding interest. We're earning interest. We're making money. This is how much we'd make over a whole year, 7%. That's 12 because we always do these problems monthly. And then there's plus 25. All right, so now, job number one, if you were gone for the last couple of days, was learning to write these. Job number two is learning how to put these into that TVM solver. All right, so let's say we had this one. This is going to be a loan now. Okay, let's talk about the difference between those two. Do you get on a loan, somebody actually gives you money? You have to pay them back, but you get the money right up front. You didn't have any, and you go in there and they say, okay, I'll give you money. So that's positive. You remember before when we were putting them in the TVM solver, things were negative because they were coming out of your bank account? Well, this is coming in. So this $1,000 loan, you can do this. This is real. You can go to a bank and you can say, I would like to borrow $1,000. And then they say, okay, we'll check your credit, make sure that you've got, enough credit. Like what that means is not that you have money in the bank, but that you have proven that you pay things back. So your credit rating makes a big difference in how much you pay for interest. This person is paying 4.5% interest on their $1,000 loan. And instead of making deposits, they're minus 75. That's coming out of my checking account and paying back the loan. See, this came in up front. That's why it was positive. That's minus because I'm paying off my loan. That's why that 75 is negative, because it's coming out of my money every month. Means my loan was growing. What? Yeah, if you never actually made payments on your loan, it would just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Some people do that with student loans, where they have they owe a bunch of money for college and then they don't pay it back for a long time. And it just grows and grows and grows because they aren't making any payments, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It can get really scary. All right, so why is this positive? Because it came in towards you. They gave you $1,000 start that you're going to use to, go to school with or buy a car with or whatever. And why is this negative? Because this money, you're paying them back. It's coming out of your checking account. All right. So there are many things that you people borrow money for, sometimes to buy a house, sometimes to go to college. Sometimes you have a bunch of credit cards and you have let them get out of control and all of a sudden you owe a whole bunch of money, you can do what's called consolidate it into one loan. And then hopefully that loan would be at a lower rate than the credit cards would be at. That's called a debt consolidation loan. And a cash advance is where you just say, I really need some cash. We're going on this amazing trip to Hawaii and I don't want to be there with no money. So you ask for a loan just for cash so that you can have it to spend. Then you'll have to pay it back later. Not a great idea, but I get if you're only going to be in Hawaii once, maybe you would want some cash. Okay, so the TVM solver, time value money. And here we go. This is where it is under apps, the top one in each menu. And let's actually see where this would all go for this scenario. So this person is taking out a loan for college. She's going to borrow $30,000. Is N $30,000? That's a common mistake. They put the money right there. No. Is the interest rate $30,000? No. The present value, you're borrowing $30,000. So it's going to be a positive. It's come into your hands. You got $30,000. It's not negative. They gave it to you. You've got this cash that you just borrowed. Interest rate, 4%. Everybody in your calculators, start putting these numbers in. 4%. 7 years. Why don't I put 7 there? Yes.
Because it thinks it's going to be 7 months.
Yeah, that would think it's 7 months, so you'd say times 12. You can take and make the calculator do some work. 7 times 12, and that would be 84 months. So you got 84 there, a 4 there, 30,000 there. Now this is the weird one on this. If you're borrowing money, your loan is now against you. Like you have to pay the 30,000 back. They gave it to you. You've got it in your account. Realistically, you're probably going to go spend it on this college thing. But your future value, you want it to be 0 because you want the loan to slowly go down to 0. Okay, so when you have a loan, your future value is 0 and you leave it as 0. Okay, so 2 things about loans. The only thing that's negative is the payment. And usually the calculator is going to get that for you. All the other numbers are positive on a loan because they're giving you money. The only thing that's negative is you got to pay it back. So that's why the payment's negative. Okay, and then you set this to 12 and this to 12 because we're doing it monthly. And this is compoundings per year and this is payments per year. And let's always pick end. You know how there's end and beginning of the month? Always pick end of month. It just defaults that way. And I don't know, in the real world, you'd have to talk to the bank. I know that my daughter, for example, when she took out her house loan, she didn't have to make a payment at the very beginning. She got to wait like a month and then make payments. So it's not crazy to have your payment at the end. Stella, could you shut the door for us? Thank you. So by now you should have an 84 here, a 4 here, a 30,000 here, because that's what you borrowed. And now we go to this spot. The little blinky light will be right here, like a blinking cursor. And you do alpha. It's a key at the top. I know some of you have never seen this before. Alpha. And then after you hit the alpha key, you hit the solve key, which is right in the lower right. It's right above, like where you'd hit to hit equals, you know, like enter. Right above that key. So alpha, solve. And you should have the payment pop up right there. Now, I know some of you are new at this, and I'll walk around to make sure you've got this. Your job, have all these numbers in there, and if you get stuck on the alpha solve part, I'll show you. But let's see, Struder, what did you get for the payment? Negative 410. Can you explain at all why it's negative? Yep, it's coming out of your money that you had, this big pile of money. Usually we call it a checking account, but you guys don't write checks much anymore. Do any of you guys have what's called a checking account? Raise your hand if you do. I'm just curious. Oh, a lot of you do. Okay. Have any of you actually written a check? All right, only like 2. Okay, and that's because the world has changed that way, and I doubt they're gonna call them checking accounts much longer because people just don't write checks. Pretty much transfer money digitally nowadays, so. All right, so it's coming out of your money. That's why it's $410 every month. For how long? 84 months. All right, if you wanted to see how much you're gonna pay, then you would go 84 times 410. I'd like you all to do that. So how do you get out of this thing? Second quit gets you out of the TVM solver, and then go 84 times 410. And that'll tell you what? How much total you have to pay back. Hint, it's more than $30,000. If banks just let you pay back exactly what you borrowed, they wouldn't make any money. And surprisingly enough, they want to make money. Lydia, what'd you get for 84 times 410? 34,440. Oh, I'm sorry. 34 what?
So there's 3 4s and then it's 0.
Okay, you said it right then. 34,440. Okay. Why is it more than the 30,000? Because of interest. So all of that, the amount that was more than 30,000, that's how much interest you paid. Yes. Okay. Double check your numbers that they're all exactly the same as this. 410 times 84. That's all we were doing right now is 410 times 84. And that should have gave you 34,410. Okay. All right. That's the big picture on a loan. So what did I say about it again? They're all positive numbers except the payment. Okay. The other one had a bunch of negatives in it. For loans, they're all positive numbers except your payment will come out negative. The future value is always what? 0. You want your loan paid off in the future. That's why it's supposed to be future value 0. All right, let's see if you really understood this. On your TVM screen, I'm going to give you new info. And I will use this same spot here, but I want to just tell you new info, and you're going to put it in the right places. I'm not going to put it in the right place. I'm just going to say these things. So pay attention. Now it's going to be a 10-year loan. So go up to N and don't make it 10. 10 years. 10 years. If you caught what I was saying, then you should have put 10 times 12, otherwise known as 120. Okay? 10-year loan. Interest rate, I'm trying to be realistic here. Right this minute, if you want to get an interest rate for a loan, it depends on what kind of loan. I'm going to say let's say it's for a boat. Interest rates have gone up a little bit, so we're going to say about 8% interest. We're going to pay this boat back over 10 years. 8% interest. The present value, well, you just took out a loan to get this boat. It's a nice boat. It's going to be a $60,000 loan. $60,000 loan for the boat. Future value, you know what the future value is. On a loan, it's always 0. Always keep these as monthly because it's very rare. We could change that to quarterly and then it'd be a 4. We could change it to annual and it'd be a 1. But 9 times out of 10, they're monthly payments. Then you do alpha solve on this green one here and do the payment. Would you please hold it out in a moment, and I'm going to walk past and make sure that you are understanding how to do this. So I'm going to pause and check you, make sure you got how to do this. It's, again, a 10-year, it's 120 month, 8% interest, $60,000 loan. How much would the payments be over monthly? Pausing. Okay, just to finish for the kids at home, this payment was negative $727 approximately. And now we're talking about what if, you're talking about the project, what if we want to flip the script and instead we're going to say, you get to pick your own payment. So that could be something like this. Between you and your mom and dad, you might work out some kind of a deal to borrow money from them. And you could pick what the payment is going to be. All right, So here's how you could use this app to, you pick your own payment. Would everybody please put in 120 for time, N. Interest rate, let's say it's going to be 5%. Present value, you're going to borrow $100,000 because you want to start a sandwich shop. You think you can do Subway except better and cooler because your Subway will serve, I don't know, sushi or something. So you're going to start this thing and your mom and dad say, sure, I'll lend you the $100,000. I'm not just going to give it to you, but I'll lend it to you. And then you want to make payments of negative, don't forget the negative, and it can't be the minus key, it has to be the negative key. And we're going to type in what the payment's going to be, and then we'll go back and see how much time it will take to pay off. So instead of this number being fixed, the 120, we're going to let that number change. All right, so go into the payment and type in, you want to make payments of $700. So type negative 700 there, and then go back and alpha solve here. And it'll tell you how many months it's going to take to pay back mom and dad. We know 120 would be 10 years. It's possible that you aren't making big enough payments to ever pay it off. And then mom and dad will be like, no, you're going to have to pay us more per month. Otherwise, you're not really paying us back. Alexis, what'd you get when you alpha solved for time? 217? All right. So what does that mean? It's going to take 217 months to pay back mom and dad at that rate. And your mom and dad might be like, that's too long. That's going to take too long to pay back. So I want you to pay $800 a month, and then we'll just see what that does. So everybody change it to $800 a month payment. How many months would it take in that scenario? Alpha solving this. Wallace, what'd you get? Alpha solve up in the end.
176.
176 months. Can anybody verify 176? Okay, good. Okay, I think you get the idea. That's how you do loans. Now, one last thing before we wrap it up for today, we got to go back to investments because they're completely different, and I want you to see the difference. Notice here, there's only one negative number, and it's the payment. Because once you have borrowed this money, you got a whole big pile of cash, and your only thing that's negative, every month you have to pay out something to pay it back. Then let's go to an investment. So from your mom and dad's perspective, they are going to have an investment of present value $100,000 that they're going to invest in you. So we'll keep that as $100,000. Interest rate 5%. And let's say that they decide to just go check at the bank on like, well, how much would a bank normally do this for? They say, well, that'd be a 120-month loan normally. See what kind of payments they would have expected. Something's wrong here, though. I made everything positive again. That means your mom and dad are taking a loan. What should be negative right now? Yes? Yep. Because you're going to take $100,000 out of your checking account and give it to somebody else. So this is leaving your checking account. That should be negative $100,000. And the payment would be how much a month they're going to be expecting to get. Tyler, what'd you get for the payment? Okay, do alpha solve on the payment with the negative 100,000 and let's see what we get.
1,060.
1060?
Yeah.
All right. All right, now wipe out all the numbers, one last investment. Let's say that you have $5,000 to start with, and you're going to add to it 100 a month, and you're going to deposit that out of your checking and into the investment because you found a guy who will give you 10% interest. And you're like, well, I'm going to give you $5,000 and I'm going to put in $100 a month because I like that interest rate. Would you put those in all the right spots and make some of them negative because they're coming out of your checking account and going into the investment? So one thing I haven't told you yet is how many years you're going to do this for. We're going to stick with 120 months, which is 10 years. What I'm setting up here is Bernie Madoff. Does anybody recognize that name? He was the guy who set up the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time, where he told people he was taking their money and investing it, and he was promising them good returns like 10%. And he just got so many people to believe him that he had this huge pile of money. Whenever anybody wanted money, he'd just give it back to them out of the huge pile of money, but he hadn't really invested it. He was just hoarding this huge pile of money everybody had given him, and he was telling them it was growing, but it really wasn't, and he was spending it on his own stuff. He had a fancy house and a fancy car and a fancy second house and a fancy third house and a yacht and all this stuff, and he was just spending everybody's money. His name was Bernie Madoff, and he ended up taking, even some famous movie stars lost lots of money. They gave it to him, trusting that he was actually investing it for them. And he promised them about 10%. So, and he didn't ever. At the end, there was only pennies on the dollar left. So people got some of their money back. But let's say they gave him $1 million, they might have only gotten like 50,000. So he just basically spent it all. And that's called a scheme. And he ended up going to jail for the rest of his life, and he died in prison. And then it just destroyed his family, too. His son ended up, I believe his son ended up committing suicide because his family name was so destroyed. And anyway, so it's pretty awful. But that's one thing you have to watch out for in investments is some people will lie to you and tell you they're investing your money when they're really not. All right, so your interest rate there was 10%. You should put a 10 there. Present value, negative 5,000. That means you started by giving 5,000 into the investment. Your payments are going to be negative 100 because they're coming out of your checking every month. And the key thing there is alpha solving here. Who understood that and did it right? Alexis, can you tell me what you think it is? 34,019. Can anybody verify that number? Okay, cool. I think you get, that's called investments. 2 negative numbers. Loans will only have 1 negative number, and it's your payment. Any last questions? Okay. Then you have a Schoology quiz and the start of your project. To start your project, you're going to interview some adult over this weekend, and you're going to ask them like 3 questions. That's one document that's a PDF today, and it should seriously be 15 minutes at the most of talking to an adult and asking them the questions that are on the little form, okay? It's things like, what's the biggest mistake you ever made with loans or investments? Just gets you to talk to somebody about the real world. Okay, so that's one of your things. And then there's a Schoology quiz. I'd like you to open the Schoology quiz right now and get started on that. And that's all I have for you for the video for today.